The Minnesota cop who shot and killed Philando Castile earlier this year during a routine traffic stop has now actually been charged in connection with that killing. Now, this comes after weeks of protest and widespread concern that's fully justified that this would be another case where cops are not held responsible for the things that they do, especially when it comes to unnecessary lethal action. But in this case, we do actually have charges being made. Officer Jeronimo Yanez of the St. Anthony Police Department faces a total of 3 felony charges, 1 charge of second-degree manslaughter, and 2 felony counts of dangerous discharge of a firearm. Now, obviously, the charges are important, and they very often do not come. But some of the comments that were made by the county attorney about this case are also important, and it gives you an idea of how the case might actually play out. So this is John Choi, who says, "There was no objective threat posed to Officer Yanez, Officer Joseph Kauser, or anyone in that car. Philando Castile was not resisting or fleeing. He was respectful and compliant. He volunteered in good faith that he had a firearm beyond what the law requires. His dying words were in protest that he wasn't reaching for his gun." It goes on to say, "The mere mention of a firearm alone doesn't justify the use of the deadly force." Going on to say that their experts consulted by his office determined that use of force was not necessary and was inconsistent with generally accepted police practices. Now, those charges are significant. A person guilty of manslaughter in the second degree can be sentenced to up to 10 years, not more than 10 years, or to a payment of a fine of not more than $20,000 or both. And so potentially significant repercussions for this if the charges turn into a conviction.
So some people might be surprised by this because I want accountability, of course, right? But every time one of these cops gets charged, I feel slightly bad for them. And you say, he shot that poor guy who didn't do anything wrong. Why would you feel bad for him? Because what I'm worried about is that they're systemically training all the cops in the wrong ways. And then so they're saying, hey, be afraid of everybody. Anybody can kill you at any second. And so you get them to be, react way too quick and kill people within 2 seconds, et cetera. So once you train them up that way and then this guy reacts that way, I feel like the system is more at fault than this particular individual. Now, having said that, here's why it's super important that they actually do charge him. Number one, the police chief, as John was quoting there, or at least the person representing the police department, for him to say this is inconsistent with our policing practices, then sends a message to all the other cops, don't do that. When they come out and they don't charge him, and they go, no, that sends a message to everybody, go ahead, shoot him in 2 seconds, who cares? So now all of a sudden there's a message like, hey, I better be careful. Now I know they told me to panic and everybody's gonna kill me within half a second, but remember, this is inconsistent with police practices and I could be charged. Secondly, when you go to the actual charge, they're not charging him with, first-degree homicide. He meant to go kill Philando Castile. Nobody thinks he meant to go kill him or had any beef with him. No. So this charge is basically a person who causes the death of another by the person's culpable negligence, whereby the person creates an unreasonable risk and consciously takes the chances of causing death or great bodily harm to another. And when you read that, that's exactly what the officer did.
Yeah.
He was negligent in firing way too quickly when there was no real credible threat of harm. And he took
a kid in the car.
And he took a chance of causing a death or great bodily harm because of that negligence.
Yeah.
Well, you have to charge him. That's exactly what he did.
The guy said, I have a gun. He was just going along with it. He shot him 4 times next to his girlfriend and with a 4-year-old in the car. And it's not going to be necessary in terms of getting the conviction, but we understand exactly what happened. He wasn't scared because Philando tried to pull out his gun and try to shoot him. He was scared because he saw the guy, and he's naturally more scared of black individuals. That's all it is. And we know that sort of just implicit bigotry is out there, and it makes people react differently to different sorts of people. If the guy had been white in that case, maybe he would have still shot him, but probably not. And
but ironically,
we've seen this over and over.
Ironically, that's part of what makes me feel bad for the guy being charged, because we're not kidding when we say that implicit bias is in almost all of our heads. And it's a lot of times black cops even overreact to, and this is proven out by studies, to other African Americans. And so then it's so much more important to address the root cause of the problem
Yeah.
than it is to go one by one and punish people, etc. But it's still also important to punish them and send a message. And to me, the guys who are saying, don't worry about the root cause of the problem, that's the bigger issue.
I agree, yeah.
You've got to address that at the same time.
Yeah. And I do want to recognize, so the girlfriend who was in the car, Diamond Reynolds, the fact that she took out her phone and she filmed it, and we've shown that footage. I don't know if we would have had these charges if not for the footage showing how insanely incongruous the reaction was to the situation in the car. And she showed an incredible amount of courage to be able to do that when she just witnessed a person murdered a foot and a half away from her. And she doesn't know if she could be next. So the guy is scared of everything going on around him. But she was able to do that, and so there might be justice because of her quick thinking and her bravery.
And no matter what race you are or what politics you have, when Ramsey County Attorney John Choi says, hey, he had a legal right to that weapon, and he went even beyond what the law requires to notify the police officer, and he did absolutely nothing wrong, you should cheer that attorney for protecting all of your rights, no matter who you are.
Yeah.
You know who makes independent media possible? You guys. Because of you, we can actually do this show free of any outside influence. That's what makes us so strong. Become a member today. tytnetwork.com/join. You are the media.